All right, so are you ready to dive into this prediction about 2025 being a stock picker's market?
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Yeah, because this really changes how we think about investing next year.
For sure.
Instead of just looking at broad trends, it's going to be about individual stock selection.
Totally.
And we have a great article here from mapsignals.com.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
Yeah, by Lucas Downey. They're a financial analysis platform.
So they know what they're talking about.
Exactly. And they're the ones predicting this big shift.
And it's a pretty bold prediction
Oh, for sure.
because, most people are just told to buy index funds.
Right. Just put your money in and hope for the best.
Yeah, but if Map Signals is right, we need to get much more focused.
Exactly. We can't just rely on the market lifting all boats.
We need to understand the individual businesses we're investing in.
Totally. And the article kicks off with this great quote from Warren Buffett.
Oh, yeah, Buffett always has the best quotes.
Right. He said, "Beware the investment activity that produces applause. The great moves are usually greeted by yawns."
Classic Buffett, so true.
Isn't it such a simple way to put it?
But it's all about investor psychology,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
When everyone's piling into the hot stock, the price is already inflated.
Right. You've missed the boat already.
Yeah, less room for gains.
So you're saying the real opportunities are where people aren't looking.
Exactly where the yawns are happening.
Where are those yawns right now? What are people overlooking that could be huge in 2025?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's about finding those hidden gems.
Okay, so how do we even start looking for those?
Well, think about companies or sectors that are poised for growth but haven't caught the market's attention yet.
Okay, I see what you're saying, like a company with groundbreaking tech that's being overshadowed by all the AI hype.
Exactly. Or maybe an undervalued sector that's about to benefit from demographic shifts.
Right, something that's on the radar but not quite in the spotlight.
Exactly. And that's where deep research comes in.
Okay, so we need to be detectives looking for clues.
Yeah, we got to go beyond the headlines and understand the fundamentals of a business.
Their competitive landscape, their long-term growth prospects.
Exactly. It's about finding value where others don't see it.
And the article brings up stock dispersion, which they say was at all-time highs earlier this year.
Yeah, dispersion.
I think we need to break that down a bit for our listeners because it sounds a little technical.
Sure. So imagine a flock of birds flying in perfect formation.
Okay.
That's a market with high correlation. Everything's moving together.
Right. All influenced by the same thing.
Exactly. But with high dispersion, those birds suddenly scatter.
Oh, I see.
Each stock's performance becomes less predictable, driven by its own unique circumstances.
So in that scenario, those sector-specific ETFs might not be as effective, right?
You got it, because you're betting on the average performance of a group that's no longer moving together.
So stock picking becomes even more important in that environment.
Exactly. You can't just rely on broad trends. You need to pick out the individual winners.
And the article had some pretty dramatic examples of this volatility, right?
Oh, yeah. They mentioned Super Microcomputer, which was actually the top performing tech stock through May 31st with a gain of 176%.
Wow, 176%. That's incredible.
But then get this, after July 10th, it became the worst performer, plummeting by 53.5%.
Whoa, talk about a roller coaster.
Yeah, it shows the stakes are higher in a high dispersion market.
Big potential for gains and losses.
And it wasn't just super micro.
Right, it was happening across different sectors.
Like, the article also mentioned Palantir, that data analytics company.
Yeah, they've been doing pretty well.
They surged 145.8% during a time when many big tech stocks were faltering.
Okay, so huge swings up and down all over the place.
That's distortion for you.
So what caused this turning point in the market?
Well, the article points to July 11th, 2024 as a key date.
Okay, so what happened around then?
Several things that seem to have shifted investor sentiment and market dynamics.
Okay, let's unpack those and see what they might signal about the future.
Well, one big factor was the Federal Reserve. They started hinting at rate cuts.
Oh yeah, that always gets people's attention.
Right, because it makes borrowing cheaper, so it could stimulate the economy.
And that would boost certain sectors more than others.
Exactly. So investors start thinking, okay, which industries will benefit most from lower rates?
And they start moving their money around?
That's how it works, but there was also a lot of political uncertainty around that time.
Right. July 2024, new presidential administration on the horizon.
And you know how that goes. Always a bit of a wild card.
Investors get nervous trying to guess what policies will change.
Taxes, infrastructure spending, trade deals, all that stuff.
Yeah, trying to figure out who the winners and losers will be.
Exactly. So you've got these two big forces at play: economic stimulus from potential rate cuts and political uncertainty from a new administration.
It's a recipe for volatility
For sure. And that's where stock picking can really shine.
because you need to be able to see beyond the headlines.
You got to understand how these macroeconomic shifts could create opportunities for specific companies.
Not just following the herd. Okay, so let's say I'm convinced 2025 is going to be a stock picker's market. Where do I even begin? How do I find those hidden gems?
Well, the article talks about some tools and strategies that can help.
Okay, like what?
They mention MapSignal's concept of unusual flying stocks, or UFSs.
UFSs, what are those?
Basically, stocks that are exhibiting unusual activity.
Okay, so something out of the ordinary.
Right. It might signal that big money is moving in.
Like institutional investors making big bets.
Exactly. And MapSignals uses algorithms to track these patterns.
So it's not just random stock picks, there's data behind it.
Right. They're looking for stocks with yawning inflow signals.
Yawning inflow signal.
Yeah, meaning strong institutional buying, but the price hasn't gone up yet.
So it's like they're getting in early before everyone else catches on.
Exactly. But can I give you some examples of how this works in practice?
Please do, because this is all pretty abstract.
Sure. Well, they mention Axon Enterprise. They make police body cameras and tasers.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them.
They appeared on MapSignal's Top 20 report back in August. And
Their stock has jumped 86% since then.
wow, that's pretty significant.
Right, and another one they highlight is Royal Caribbean Cruises.
Interesting. So a travel stock.
Yeah, MapSignals flagged them with multiple yawning inflow signals, and their stock has also seen a big price jump.
Okay, so these UFSs are not a guaranteed win, obviously.
Of course not.
But it's a way to potentially spot opportunities early.
Exactly. It's like having a team of scouts scanning the market for undervalued companies.
But even with those tools, we still need to do our own research right.
Oh, absolutely. Don't just blindly follow the signals.
Right. It's about using these tools to inform our own decisions.
Dig deeper, understand why those companies are showing up on the radar.
And that brings us back to the core message. If 2025 is a stock picker's market, it's not about day trading or chasing every little movement.
Right. It's about being more thoughtful, more selective.
More informed about the companies we invest in.
Exactly. Understand the businesses, their competitive advantages, their growth potential, and how they might be affected by these economic and political shifts.
For sure.
So to sum it up, if 2025 is a stock picker's market, what's the key takeaway for our listeners? I think the biggest takeaway is we talked about how much things shifted this year
Oh, yeah.
with the rate cuts and the new administration, all that.
Huge impact.
So the big question is, what could happen in 2025?
Yeah. What could catch investors by surprise?
What could create those opportunities if you're paying attention?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
It's about thinking beyond the obvious.
Yeah.
You know?
Like those black swan events that nobody sees coming.
Exactly. A sudden geopolitical crisis.
A huge technological breakthrough.
Right. Something that completely changes the game.
So it's not really about predicting those events, because who could do that?
Nobody can predict the future.
But it's more about being ready to adapt.
Exactly. Having that flexible mindset.
Because if you're too focused on one sector or one strategy,
You might miss those unexpected opportunities.
so instead of trying to predict everything,
We should build a portfolio that can handle those surprises.
maybe even take advantage of them.
That's the idea, a diversified portfolio with companies that can perform well in different conditions.
Right. Some that do well in growth periods,
Yeah.
some that are more resilient during downturns.
It's all about balance.
And that goes back to knowing the businesses you're investing in.
Absolutely. Not just looking at the stock price, but really digging deep.
Their financials, their management team, their competitive advantages.
All of it.
So in a stock picker's market, knowledge is power.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
The more you know, the better decisions you can make.
And the better you can navigate those ups and downs.
So bottom line, if 2025 is a stock picker's market, it's not about being passive.
Nope.
It's about being active, doing your research, thinking critically,
And being ready for anything.
embracing the volatility, and finding those opportunities.
Well said. I think that's a great way to wrap up our deep dive today.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone's feeling a little more informed, a little more empowered.
Ready to tackle 2025 and maybe find some of those hidden gems.
Those yawners that turn into roars.
Exactly. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone.
It's been a pleasure.
And remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to investing.
So go out there, do your research.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one telling us about your amazing stock picks next year.
We'd love to hear about it.
Until then, happy investing.
Happy investing.